At the same time, there was a lot that goes into a game like this. There's the little mistakes that you have along the way, and the Rams just could not overcome those mistakes. This is a football team that almost has to play perfect. And today,
they didn't.
And they didn't.
No.
And so they're trying to play catch up. This has been just the theme of the Rams. They don't know how to play with a lead. I mean, they finally got it. They didn't even get a lead today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just like everything was always just trying to come from behind, and that's where I feel like this team kind of loses its way. They don't have that mentality of get out in front and then, hey, they got to play catch up. I always feel like the Rams are trying to play catch up throughout a whole entire game.
877-710-ESPN is the phone number, Rams fans. If you want to get in and talk about what you saw at SoFi Stadium today, that number 877-710-3776. And, we talked about it during the pregame show, waiting for them to be functioning in all three phases at the same time, and they just were unable to do it. You saw a 90-plus yard touchdown drive on the defense. You saw a missed extra point on special teams, and then you just saw a couple of really big mistakes on offense, a couple of breakdowns up front late in the game, getting Matthew Stafford sacked. They made a valiant effort to come back, but just this team is not whole enough.
Yeah.
This team is not talented enough as currently constructed to overcome big mistakes like that.
Yeah, and you're learning it week to week. Guys who you can count on, who you can trust. And that's the hard part when it comes to this team, is that the guys who you are leaning on the most are not available to you. So it is a next man up mentality for the Rams right now. It's very difficult because this team can be so much better, right? They may not be the most talented, but they're not executing as much as they should as well.
No.
For me, I still believe in Sean McVay, regardless
Sure.
of what the record is. I know that he's a really good coach to scheme it up the right way to make sure the guys are in the best position to make plays. The only thing is they have to make plays, right? They have to go out and execute. You can't have an interception, right? You cannot have a sack when you are trying to score points, whether it's in the first half or even the second half. You have to be able to make tackles. You got to be in gaps. Like, it's little things that these Rams have to clean up. They're just not a good enough team to overcome the little mistakes.
Yeah, that's, I guess, the great question here. Through the first 5 weeks of the season, they're 1-4, which is, obviously not where you want to be. They are in a very real, very deep hole as they head into their bye week. But I think the question is, Kirk, is this a matter of they don't have enough talent, or is this a matter of the talent that they do have isn't available to be on the field? I understand nobody feels sorry for you. Everybody's going to have injuries, but I keep coming back to you can only ask so much. Like we heard JB talk about it towards the end of the game. Coming into tonight or this afternoon, Colby Parkinson having 13 targets.
Right.
That's probably not a winning a recipe for the Rams. There's just not enough guys to make enough plays along the way. You get one here and there. We saw Demarcus Robinson get into the end zone. We saw Kyren Williams score for the 8th consecutive week, but there just aren't enough playmakers on the field right now, it feels like.
No, it's not enough. And you're asking guys who their role of when they came to the Rams, or we need you to be our number 3 option, our number 4 option, maybe our number 5 option. They're being asked to be number ones. And sometimes guys aren't number ones. I know we've always talked about this when it comes to the NBA, and maybe it's even the Lakers. This team needs a number 1, or this team needs a number 2, and the number 1 goes down. They need the number 2 to be the one.
Yep.
It's like, see, I told you he's no good. Like, no, that's not his role. His role is the number 2, and you're asking him to be the number 1. It just don't work out.
You heard JB say it during the pregame show, and you're asking, starters to become superstars,
Right.
backups to become starters, and practice squad players to become backups. Everybody has to take that step up, and you can tell that right now they're not able to make that step. And it's been on all three sides. Defense a little bit better today, but a very frustrating loss. It felt like a game that the Rams could have won. Now, it never felt like maybe they were going to win it, but it felt like 2 turnovers. You saw both of them on the wrong side of the field. You saw Kyren Williams. They come out of the second half. They're moving the ball. They get in plus territory. The ball comes out, leads directly to another Green Bay touchdown along the way. I don't know if they played that game 100 times, how many times the Rams are going to win it, but it felt like there were opportunities for them today.
There's just moments that they could have taken over this football game. But I go back to the mistakes and the little things that in the moment you don't necessarily look at, but then you just write them down. And at the end of the day, it's like I'll use this comparison. It's like a honey-do list.
Yeah.
And every time it's like, hey, could you go do this? Oh, yeah, just put it on the list for me. Put it on the list. Okay, hey, could you go do this for me? You know what? After the game. After the game, I got it. And he's like, don't forget to do this. Oh, just put it on the list for me. I'll get when I get to it. And then when you finally get to that list,
48 things
that
on
list
it.
is a long thing and it goes back to the Rams maybe not going for points early on in their first drive.
We'll get to that. That drove me crazy.
Okay, that goes there. You have
Missed PAT.
You have
a sack taking you out of field goal range.
You had a drop. By Tutu Atwell that could have been a catchable football. You had a couple of times where guys are not in their gaps when it comes to the run defense. You let Jordan Love get out of the pocket and make a play. Like the defense, I mean, when I break it all the way down, the offense honestly really only scored just a couple.
Two touchdowns.
And one of them was a late touchdown.
Yeah.
That may be because of how aggressive they had to be back against the wall.
And the defense that Green Bay was playing.
The defense was a little bit different. They played well, but there's always those moments that happen to where a couple plays, they needed to knock that one ball away to Jaden Reed. There's moments that honeydew list just gets longer and longer about things that they could have changed around.
I want to talk about the decision to go for it on fourth down very early in the fourth quarter, 4th and 4 from the 4-yard line, 4th and goal, I should say, from the 4-yard line. They obviously don't get points. We'll come back. We'll talk about that, plus your phone calls straight ahead. 877-710-ESPN, 877-710-3776. That's all coming up on the Rams postgame show on the ESPN LA Rams Radio Network.
On the ESPN LA Rams Radio Network and on the all-new ESPN LA app.
That's it from SoFi. 24-19, the Packers beat the Rams again. In the 100th meeting between these franchises, Green Bay has now won 10 of the last 11, including playoffs.
And this is the Rams postgame show live from Hollywood Park Casino, HPC. Park Party at play. Rams lose again. Back-to-back losses headed into the bye week. That makes Sean McVay and the squad 1-4. We take your reaction now. 877-710-ESPN. Once again, back to Hollywood Park Casino. Back to the Rams postgame show and back to Travis Rogers and Kirk Morrison.
You heard that number right there from JB Long. The Green Bay Packers have won 10 of the last 11 meetings between these two teams, including the postseason. And let's go a little bit deeper than that, Kirk. Matt LaFleur, 5-0 against his former boss, Sean McVay. And most of these games have kind of felt like this, where the Rams have been chasing them around all afternoon long.
Yeah, it's just always felt like the Rams could never just maintain some type of lead or even have some kind of control over the game. Every time, whether it's Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, whether it's Jordan Love at quarterback, the Rams just cannot seem to find a way to beat the Green Bay Packers. This was the first time this game was here at home.
Long time.
In the Matt LaFleur era. And to see just the way that they performed, they didn't play their best game, but they found a way to win. I think that they're probably excited about that, getting Jordan Love back in the mix. They ran the ball well at times. They hit a couple of big plays. And when you hit those big plays, that's what really put them in a situation that I thought that really hurt the Rams, because they couldn't really just drive it up and down. But a big play to Jaden Reed, and then you get a touchdown off of that. A big play to Tucker Kraft, and then you get a touchdown off. Like, it was eliminating the explosives today was what the defense for the Rams had to do. They didn't do it, and that's why I thought the Green Bay Packers capitalized and won the football game.
All right, 877-710-ESPN is the phone number. Let's take a couple of calls. Let's start with some guys in the parking lot at SoFi Stadium. Start with Eric. Eric, you're on with Travis and Kirk. What's going on, Eric?
Yeah, you know what? Leaving the parking lot, leaving the game, I want to give props to the defense. I thought they played incredible outside of those two big plays, and one was a phenomenal catch. Let's give credit to Green Bay. Great catch. Great defense, just better catch. But outside of two big plays, the defense just played awesome. I think Stafford had an off day, and he gets to have an off day as a premier quarterback. Had an off day, missing targets, took some key sacks and some tough times where you needed him to step up and actually not take that sack in those times. But he gets to have an off day. Definitely missing our three big receivers and Kupp, Nakua, Higbee. But, hey, credit to Whittington. Great job. That kid is going to be a star. We got to start hitting that kid now.
Yeah, Whittington left the game with an injury towards the end. We'll get you some news on that, hopefully by the end of the post-game show along the way. The defense was much better today, Kirk. They did make some plays. They did get the ball back for Matthew Stafford and the Rams, not once but twice in the fourth quarter, to give that offense a chance to try and go win the game. Today, if you just had to kind of say, okay, which was the better of the two units, the defense was the better unit today, because you look at this, 19 points, final score 24-19. 6 of those came from the defense. The offense only scored 13 points along the way. That's just not good enough. You're not going to win games in the NFL when your offense scores 13 points, not unless you have the 85 Bears defense out there, and the Rams certainly don't have that. So I understand.
Or the 2000 Ravens.
The 2000 Ravens might be good. The Bucks from 02, not a bad defense along the way. That's a pretty good one, too. But the 2024 Rams are probably not one of those defenses, are definitely not one of those defenses. But this was not a defensive problem today. This was an offensive one.
Yeah, offensive problem about not finishing. And that's where the Rams, to me, if you ask me, where the Rams lost their way this season, they are having a tough time finishing. They're getting all the way down there, and in the red zone, their offense has just stalled. Saw some creativity, but at the end of the day, it's still like it's stalled. Now, they did get a red zone touchdown.
Yep.
And it's because they ran the ball 6 times in a row like they should have been doing for the most part. But, I mean, I love Matthew Stafford as a quarterback. I just don't trust to have to make him drop back that many times.
Not with these receivers.
Yeah,
if it's Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua and Tyler Higbee, okay. Those are guys that you can lean on a little bit, but they're so far into their own depth chart that you're just not going to get consistent performances out of that group of guys.
I don't think Matthew Stafford, he trusts his guys, but there's a different trust that he has in Cooper Kupp and Puka. How many times have you seen a Matthew Stafford throw a ball and then all of a sudden the receiver comes out of nowhere to grab it? Matthew Stafford has a trust that he knows that certain players are going to be in that area. He doesn't throw right to a guy. He likes to throw to an area. We talked about one of the throws that, during the game. It was a throw to Tutu Atwell.
Yeah.
He's just going to the flat, but that ball, bam, is right there on him, and he's able to turn it up the field. That's what Matthew Stafford wants to do. He wants to throw to an area, and a lot of these guys right now are not able to see where they need to be. He doesn't trust they're going to be where they need to be. And what does that mean? He holds it for a
waits.
half a beat too long.
Yeah,
And
he
that's where the
waits.
sacks
Saw
go.
a couple of sacks today that really kind of changed the momentum of the game. Let's try another phone call here. Let's go back to the lot in SoFi. Daniel, you're on with Travis and Kirk. Daniel, what's up?
I love the fact that McVay is trying to create a culture where, hey, if you come here and coach, you'll probably get a job. But he needs to stop blocking these interviews. We're just letting coaches walk, and you can't turn out coaches every single year and expect people to be on the same page. Like, you let Matt LaFleur walk, no pick, KOC. Like, I don't know if you can negotiate picks, but ever since KOC left, Stafford looks like a different quarterback. And, like, I don't know if it's because KOC played quarterback before, like his play calling was, like, a little bit better and McVay trusted it. But, come on.
What do you make of that, Kirk?
Yeah, I mean, that's a reach. And the reason why it's a reach is because you wouldn't have Sean McVay because he was under Jay Gruden, right? Like, Sean McVay wouldn't be a head coach right now. A lot of the guys who he brought on wouldn't be head coaches. Sean McVay was an assistant. You know who else was an assistant on that one? Matt LaFleur. Who
Right.
else was on this assistant?
Shanahan.
Like, they had all these assistant guys who've came up, and this is what they want to give their coaches the opportunity. Think about this. Liam Cohen is the offensive coordinator over in Tampa Bay. Where did he get the opportunity from? Sean McVay. Zach Robinson, offensive coordinator with Raheem Morris over in Atlanta. Like, coaches take pride in their coaching trees.
Sure.
And that's just the way the National Football League. If you think a guy wants to stay in his position the entire time, no way. They want to go into and get an upgrade. They want to go.
You know who hired guys that didn't get hired elsewhere? Jeff Fisher.
Correct.
How'd that work out?
It didn't work.
You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying.
Right.
You're going to want guys that want to be upwardly mobile. I get it. It's frustrating. It's difficult to have to replace chunks of your staff as frequently as the Rams have had to do it. But I think one of the great underrated skills that Sean McVay has, we know the offensive mind. He's great at identifying coaching talent.
Yes, he is.
There's a reason that all of these other guys not only get head coaching jobs, but for the vast majority of them, they are thriving as head coaches in other places.
Mm-hmm.
That's a testament to McVay. He will find more talented assistants.
Absolutely.
He'll be able to do this. I understand the point that he's trying to make, and I can appreciate it, but it's really hard to look at what's going on with this team and say it's a coaching thing because of this or it's a coaching thing because of that. They're missing too many players.
Correct.
Well, if you had your full complement of guys, if
Now
you
we can
had
have that
all of
discussion.
your guys, then you can say, hey, look,
Yes.
this doesn't look right at all, but you don't have all your guys.
Yeah, but look, I try not to do this. I always tell my wife, you can't look at other families and say this is the way things should be operating because our family operates differently
Sure.
because of what we have going on. That's the same way I tried not to do that in the National Football League. But I can't help but look around at some of the other teams. And you look at the 49ers, and you would think they were far worse than where the Rams are at. This is a team that's picked to go back to a Super Bowl, to win, to be in a conference championship game. They're sitting here 2-3, right? You're looking at the Cardinals are winning football games. I mean, it's just all over the place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you would have told me the Rams and the Bengals, and some people actually had some people say, hey, it could be a Super Bowl rematch.
Yeah.
Both those teams right now combined 2 wins.
Yeah.
2-8,
Look,
both Rams and also the Bengals.
The good news is unlike the AFC North, you look at the NFC West, and really nobody's running away with it. You look at Seattle; they get beat by the Giants today. They're at 3-2. San Francisco is really struggling. Arizona only has 2 wins, but the good news for them is both of those wins are in the division. So
Right.
everybody's bunched together. Of course, the Rams at the bottom right now with just the 1 win. They do get a chance to kind of lick their wounds, collect, and that's what I want to get into next, Kirk. Where do you go from here? What does Sean McVay do with the bye week? Get ready for the Las Vegas Raiders coming up in Week 7. Plus, we'll hear from the head coach, Sean McVay, and more of your phone calls. 877-710-ESPN. That's all coming up on the Rams postgame show on the ESPN LA Rams Radio Network.
Squad 1-4. We take your reaction now. 877-710-ESPN. Once again, back to Hollywood Park Casino. Back to the Rams postgame show and back to Travis Rogers and Kirk Morrison.
All right, before we take some more of these phone calls coming up here in just a second, let's pause 10 seconds for stations to identify themselves on the ESPN LA Rams radio network.
Hi, this is Sean McVay of your LA Rams. The Rams play here. KSPN, Los Angeles.
710 ESPN.
A good karma brands radio station.
All right, let's go to Bob. Bob, you're up next. You're on with Travis and Kirk. This is the Rams postgame show. What's up, Bob?
Hey, Travis. I just wanted to ask to see if you think we're really a 1-4 team or really just a 4-1 team that's had a couple of plays not go our way.
Yeah, Bob, look, I'm just gonna steal from the great Bill Parcells.
Yeah.
You are what your record says you are. The Rams are 1-4, and quite frankly, they're lucky they're not 0-5.
Yep.
The fact of the matter is, what they did against San Francisco, if you ran that back, that doesn't go that way very often. They have earned their 1-4 record. Now, there's explanations to it. I don't know if they're excuses. I think they're more explanations. But Kirk, it would be hard pressed to look at the way that they've played. You know, could Denver or Detroit have gone a little differently? Perhaps, but they've earned these other losses along the way.
Yeah, you're right, 100%. They've earned all of these losses.
Yeah.
They didn't play well, and this is what happens. You don't play well. It's not where we're right there. I think
Not really. They're really not.
They're not there.
They're a ways
Yeah.
away.
They're missing some guys, and I don't want that to be the savior. I think that's what Sean McVay is trying to preach, that we just can't say, oh, we'll be fine when we get our guys back. Like, we got to make sure that we're trending in the right direction so that when we do get the guys back, it's a seamless transition. Right now, I don't know if they are that team to feel like having Kupp and Nacua back that this offense just changes right away. It doesn't do that.
It will be better with those guys back, but the question is, and hopefully Cooper Kupp is back by the Raider game in Week 7 coming out of the bye, but what does it look like by the time you are whole again? Or, what is your record by the time those guys come back, and is there enough time? We know that they came back from 3-6 a year ago. The schedule in the back of this season is very different than the schedule was last year. There were some games you looked at last year and thought that, okay, this is a possible win, a possible win, a possible win. Right now, as you look through the rest of the Rams schedule, there's the Raiders, there's the New England Patriots, maybe the Miami Dolphins. We'll see with Tua whether he comes back or not. But the rest of these games, as you look at it right now, there are not a lot of opportunities to say, okay, if we get right here, then we got a little bit of a soft spot. There are no soft spots coming up really from now through the end of the line.
Yeah, there's zero. I'm just looking at these teams, and just when I throw the names out there, just automatically what comes over your mind. I mean, Minnesota Vikings, you didn't know in the beginning of the season, but that's an undefeated football team right now. I'm looking at the New Orleans Saints, Buffalo Bills. Obviously, Arizona's not going to be an easy out.
Jets in
here.
New York. You got Arizona
Jets
again, San Francisco again, New Orleans on the road.
It's going to be a dogfight with the Patriots because that's on the road. That little 10 a.m. Pacific time start, those are always the one games that kind of get under your skin a little bit.
Yep.
But, I don't know where the Jets are going to be by then. When I start looking at those December and, late December games, those are the ones where, like, okay.
Yeah, what is it?
What's it going to look like?
The tenor might be a little different. The mood of both teams might be a little different.
It's just like, for me, I try not to continue to move these goalposts, but it's hard not to, right? If we're looking at, okay, well, what's the next 4 games after they come out of the bye? Raiders, Vikings, Seahawks, Dolphins. It's like, can they be 3-1? Can they be?
Will they be? We'll see. They're going to have to get a lot healthier, and quite frankly, they're going to have to play a lot better as well. Let's try another phone call here. Let's go to La Habra and Steve. Steve, you're on with Travis and Kirk. What's up, Steve?
Hey, guys. I wasn't expecting the Rams to win the Super Bowl. It'd be great if they would have made the playoffs. But I think part of the reason why they're losing games is the receivers dropping the ball. I'm not expecting them all to be Jack Snow and Henry Ellard. If the ball hits you in the hands,
right,
you got to catch the ball. And then, Matthew Stafford, you can tell, gets a little pissed off, and then he's, Nolan Ryan out there throwing a, 100-mile-an-hour, football at them because he's pissed. So I don't blame it on the coach. I don't blame it on Stafford.
Right.
The defensive back's getting torched, but you know what? There's always next year, and, just reboot. We won a Super Bowl. Just reboot and be happy we're not the Raiders because they suck.
Yeah, well, you're going to get the Raiders in a couple of weeks, so you'll see how that goes before too long. Look, the wide receiving issue is clearly at the top of the list. It's not the entire list, but I do think that it is at the top because your two most dynamic playmakers in Cup and Nakua haven't really played at all this season. We saw a little bit of Cup and a little bit of Puka early, but we really haven't seen them. And if you take the top two playmakers off of any teams in this league, they're going to struggle to look the same. Now, no, like we've said a million times, nobody cares.
Right.
You either make plays and score points and win games, or you lose games. And right now the Rams are losing games, but I would challenge anybody to find a way to look the same you have. I don't care how good Matthew Stafford is, and he's great. I don't care how good Sean McVay is, and I think he's absolutely fantastic. When you keep taking pieces off of the table, off of the chessboard, ingredients out of the cupboard, eventually there's not much I can do to help you.
Yeah, and I think also it's, you're not the only team that's going through this. Like, there's just teams around the National Football League that are going through a lot more. I mentioned Tua Tagovailoa. Think about this. The Rams at least have their quarterback. If they didn't have their quarterback, we're kind of looking at what happened last year. This was an offensive line that has had how many different combinations to really start the season. They finally just have the same combination over the last couple weeks. Receivers have been down, right? Tight end, Higbee, he's been out. Like, secondary had a change this week.
Yep.
You know what I mean? There is no Ernest Jones. Like, you start thinking about some of the reasons why this football team is the way they are is because they were hoping that they were – get a leader on defense. They haven't found that yet, right? But you have had good defensive play, but who is considered the leader of a defense? Who is the guy who can consider to be able to make plays when the other guys are out? That's the tough part. And it all can't fall on the shoulders of Matthew Stafford. He's good, but, man, that's a lot to ask of a quarterback.
It's a lot to ask for a quarterback. And the guy that you're talking about on the other side is Aaron Donald. He's not here anymore.
He's not here.
That's the guy that had made that play, that had made that stand, that had offered that leadership. And right now they are really searching for it in both, schematically as far as the defense goes and getting off the field. At certain points they were better today.
Yeah.
But what they really miss is that leadership and somebody that in that big moment to make a big play, who's going to do it? That was Aaron Donald for 10 years, and they're still looking for that next guy along the way. More of your phone calls coming up in just a bit. Plus, we're going to hear from the head coach, Sean McVay, and I'm still trying to figure out why they didn't kick a field goal in the first quarter. That's coming up. It's the Rams postgame show on the ESPN LA Rams Radio Network.
To the Rams postgame show and back to Travis Rogers and Kirk Morrison.
Rams looking for a win wherever they can find one. They have a week to try to figure it out. They've got their bye week coming up next, and then they have the Las Vegas Raiders back here at SoFi Stadium in Week 7. Cooper Kupp expected to be back by then. Cross your fingers and hope that he has a good couple of weeks of practice along the way, and he continues to get healthy because they're going to need all the help they can get. And, of course, Sean McVay is the man responsible for figuring it out. He spoke with JB and DeMarco after the game.
From SoFi Stadium, Sean McVay joins us. We appreciate it, Coach. Even in defeat here today, 24-19, how would you summarize what just happened?
Yeah, tough. Our guys battled. There's going to be a lot of positives, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities that we can learn from. This one hurts, though. This one really hurts.
Yeah. Did you feel like you had them? Like it's tough sustaining momentum. I mean, you make some good plays, and then something happens that kind of stops you cold.
Yeah, and you just said it. And that's kind of what it feels like. But, the guys battled. They continued to stay in the fight. We had our chances, at the latter part of the game. And, yeah.
Sean, you made a couple of changes, especially on defense today. How do you feel like some new pieces gave you the chance on that side of the ball, holding the Packers to only 24 and scoring 6 themselves?
Yeah, I thought we did a great job. We were excellent on third downs. This is a tough one because we did enough, and then there was a couple explosives. They make a big play down the field where we got 3 guys there, but I was pleased overall with the defense.
All right, thank you very much, Sean.
All right, that's Sean McVay with JB and DeMarco after the game. That's an unusual reaction from Sean McVay.
It is.
I have heard all of his post-game comments, over the last 8 years, and I usually feel like I have a pretty good idea of what he's going to give you after a big win, after a tough loss, and this one a little bit surprising. This one hurts, and really not much to say after this one.
Yeah, I think because the losses. A hard-fought loss, all it means is that you had a chance to win.
Yeah.
That's all it means. That's why it hurts the most, because you had a chance to win. The games in which you don't have a chance to win, it's not like it's a situation of like, let's just turn the page. We didn't have a chance. We weren't good today. But when you have what is a hard-fought loss like it was today, was that we made mistakes, but we still found a way to have ourselves with a shot at the end, and we just didn't execute with that opportunity.
Yeah, and let's start with this, and we'll go back to the phone calls here in just 1 second. 877-710-ESPN. I get it. The football game is 60 minutes long. You're never quite sure how it's going to play out. You certainly know that you're a little shorthanded offensively in the wide receiver room and everything else. I was really surprised, Kirk, that they decided to try to go for it on 4th and 4 from the 4-yard line.
Yeah.
4th and goal, I should say. They didn't get it because it was so early in the game. It was their second offensive drive of the game. And, look, they end up losing the game by 5 points. That's 3 points. They had a sack that took them out of field goal range. That's another potential 3 points. They missed a PAT. That's 7. And you just don't know which of those points are going to be the ones that ultimately can swing the game one way or the other.
Yeah.
I thought that he was kind of letting you know what he thought he might have today by going for it. Now, that wasn't 4th and an inch. That's 4th and 4. They haven't had a ton of success in that section of the field really all season long. I was surprised to see that.
Yeah, I wasn't as much. I think because it was so early in the game. You want to score points. You want to get a touchdown. You've had a drive in which you really did a good job of moving the football up and down. I didn't have a problem with it. Now, I think in hindsight you say, well, you should have took the 3. And maybe when you rethink it, do you?
Just early on?
Always
give me some points. Let's see. Let's start collecting points and figure it out from there. They had a 2-point conversion that didn't work.
Right.
I just
think the confidence you have in your team and your offense, and in that moment, you feel like, man, we've worked too hard to get down to here to leave empty-handed. We got to get a touchdown, and for them to go to not even get the field goal, they do come away empty-handed. It didn't necessarily hurt them right away, but at the end of the day, when you don't have 3 points on the board, we're going to second-guess that decision. I liked it. I mean, he was like, look, we don't get it, put it on our defense. And defense went out there and played well. Like, they didn't do anything that you would say, man, they were the concern.
They
weren't the problem at all.
The defense gave up a couple of big plays. You saw, Kraft have Tucker Kraft have a couple of touchdowns. Yep. Tight end position. He had a big day. But overall, I think it's a defensive performances that you can feel pretty good about. Giving up 24, scoring 6 of your own. So that certainly is a win for the defense. The offense, on the other hand, all sorts of issues really all day long. Nice comeback at the end, but not quite enough. Let's try another phone call here. Let's go to Frank. Frank, you are on the Rams postgame show with Travis and Kirk. What's up, Frank?
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Yeah,
Mhm.
I keep hearing everybody say they want to blame the coach, but unfortunately, I feel like we've had a spiral the past 3 years. I think it's time for him to start being the head coach and not the offensive coordinator. I look back to right before halftime, the Packers had the ball at the 46. We're trying to sub to get guys off the field. We got 3 timeouts left. I don't know if he thought we could roll them over to the second half and have 6, but he should have called a timeout there and let our guys get off the field. Instead, we took the penalty. Packers get the first down, going to kick a field goal. Your point, 3 points maybe they wouldn't have had. We lose by 5. Going for it on fourth down early in the game instead of taking the points. Where's Blake Corum been all year? He goes in, he's a nice shot in the arm for the running game. We've ran the ball great the past 2 games, and then we just get away from it for some reason in weird series where we decide we're just going to throw the ball every time and hang Stafford out to dry with a offensive line that's been struggling and beat up. He needs to start managing the team and quit being the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, Kirk, I want to talk. Thank you for the phone call, Frank. Look, I have a really hard time criticizing Sean McVay. I think that anybody, if you said you want my guy for your guy, everybody would take our guy. So I'm not too worried about that. But I do think he brings up a pretty interesting point, especially towards the end of the first half. This goes back to last year, like he was mentioning as well. The Rams at the end of the half, even when something goes right, it feels like they let a little of that momentum slip.
Yeah.
They get that pick six. You have a guy that, Rams haven't scored on defense, it feels like forever. They get one right towards the end of the second quarter. And then all of a sudden, here they come. Here come the Packers again, and they get out of there with a field goal right before the end of the first half. And that incredible burst of momentum that they had, it's all like, oh, yeah, okay, that's gone. Like, they're not able to seize that momentum and just lock out the other side.
Yeah, they haven't been good at situational football and being able to, like, red zone, backed up, 2-minute, 4-minute offense. That's something that they have to continue to work on, and not having certain guys kind of contribute to that, not having a Puka Nacua in that instance. That's where we've seen how many times a Matthew Stafford to a Cooper Kupp, how many times that they've got that point or points right before the half broke because they know how to navigate the time, they know how to navigate the sidelines, they know what plays work and what plays don't work. And it's hard to bring this next group along who haven't really been in that situation. Tyler Johnson and Matthew Stafford haven't played together as much. He mentioned Blake Corum. Blake Corum finally got some varsity snaps today, right?
I was going to say, he got his
some varsity
first real
snaps.
action with this team in quite some time. That we saw him in some blowout, kind of garbage time against Arizona. But Blake Corum made some plays today. He, only 5 carries, but he did put up 25 yards along the way.
They were loud carries.
12-yarder.
Loud carries.
They sure were. They also used him in the passing game. He caught a pass for 8 yards. He was an impactful player today.
Yeah, and look, those are things that you're going to add onto the list of, okay, we're moving in the right direction. We have some guys. I think the confidence of watching them play and know what you have available to you, like, okay, you just felt the momentum.
Yeah.
You felt in the momentum. You kind of get lost in the moment. And you sometimes got to say, you know what, let me step away from the table. You've been at the blackjack table. You're winning and you winning. And all of a sudden, those winnings start to go away. They dwindle. And then all of a sudden, you leave and you're like, wait, what happened? What happened to everything that I just got? And that's what I think, like the Rams, they keep getting ahead, and yet they come away empty-handed.
And then they try to extend the blackjack.
And then double down.
At the end, they start to hit some hands, but there's too late.
Too late,
right. They run out of time, and that's what happened today. They fought till the very end. They competed to the very end, but you cannot give up 17, 18 unanswered points and expect to come back and win a bunch of football games. It's just not going to happen very often, and that's exactly what they did today. More of your phone calls coming up in just a little bit. If you're on hold, stay there. If you'd like to get in, 877-710-ESPN. The Rams lose to the Packers 24-19. They are 1-4. And what sort of soul searching do they do going into that bye? That's coming up next, Kirk, on the Rams postgame show on the ESPN LA Rams Radio Network.
This is the Rams postgame show on the ESPN LA Rams Radio Network and on the all-new ESPN LA app.
That's it from SoFi. 24-19, the Packers beat the Rams again. In the 100th meeting between these franchises, Green Bay has now won 10 of the last 11, including playoffs.
And this is the Rams postgame show live from Hollywood Park Casino, HPC, Park Party and Play. Rams lose again, back-to-back losses, headed into the bye week, and make Sean McVay and the squad 1-4. We take your reaction now, 877-710-ESPN. Once again, back to Hollywood Park Casino, back to the Rams postgame show, and back to Travis Rogers and Kirk Morrison.
Okay.
You guys are up and on.
We're back.
Can you guys hear us?
Thank you for listening to Rams Packers today from SoFi Stadium. Rams dropped the game and moved to 1-4.
Rams football is presented by Call Jacob. A lot of attorneys say they'll fight for you. Call Jacob.
Going into your bye week, you know that coming out, at least on paper, looks like a game that's an opportunity for the Rams against the Las Vegas Raiders, who lost again to the Denver Broncos today. How do you spend these next 2 weeks trying to wrap your head around a 1-4 start?
Just get away from football. I mean, it sounds kind of like, wait, what? Get away from football, but there's been a lot these first 5 weeks of the season have presented to the Rams. We've had a chance to watch this team since it was first constructed and went into training camp, and we watched them at LMU. And we were like, man, these guys can be pretty good. They were healthy. They look great. Then all of a sudden, as training camp goes along, the injury bug starts to hit. And then you start hearing of suspensions. And then you start hearing of guys who won't be available to start the season.
Yeah.
Now we're like, okay, what we saw, we have to change. Now, what is this team going to look like? Well, first 5 weeks haven't been great. And I don't think anybody would have envisioned that. So what does that tell me? You got to get into a bye week where you sit down and for the first time take a deep breath. What do we do great? What do we do that helps us win football games? Or what are the things that have helped us lose football games? That's what the bye week is all about. There has always been this love of football that I have during bye week because you can't wait to have a break. But as soon as you get the break, you can't wait to get right back to it.
It's right. The first couple I don't know to work before you like go back to work.
I can get used to this. And it's like, no, I'm ready to go play. I've never seen a guy, everyone talks about these Thursday night games and the players don't like them.
Yeah.
I've yet to see a player after the game on Thursday night say, oh, I wish I played on Sunday. No, they take that weekend off. They enjoy that time off. Yeah, it may not be great in the beginning part of it, but after a Thursday game, you feel a lot better knowing you've got a weekend off to go out, relax, get your mind right. And that's what Coach is probably saying. We just needed just a little vacation to be good for all of us, knowing what's ahead of us in the second half of their season.
And you're going to start to get some of your guys back. Hopefully Puka is back by that Raider game. And here's where it gets a little interesting, Kirk. Obviously, the Rams at SoFi Stadium against the Raiders in Week 7. That is your a classic 105 kickoff game. After that, next 3 Ram home games after that are all primetime games.
Yeah.
They are all – you've got a Thursday night game against Minnesota in Week 8.
Yep.
You go to Seattle for a regular game on Week 9, and then Weeks 10 and 11 are Monday Night Football, and you've got another one that stands out, a Fox game as well. So
Yep.
you're going to be and then, of course, you got Miami Monday night.
Yep, you mentioned it. Monday Night Football, a couple of Thursdays, a
Yep.
Sunday night. Oh, yeah. The Rams are quick on national television. And as long as they're healthy, I give them a chance. There are going to be some games, to your point.
Philadelphia Sunday night.
Yeah, there are going to be some games that they're not going to be favored. But
some?
because of how they started this season. They're not going to be favored because of what that record looks like. I see it in college football all the time, right? Like, you look at the record like, oh, my God, this team is 5-0, and then they go out there and they lay a dud. Like, I saw Missouri.
Yeah.
Like, they ain't played nobody.
Alabama.
Hey, let's just let them go out there and play. Who would have thought that the Arizona Cardinals would have lost the game today against the San Francisco 49ers? But they found a way to win. They found a way to do what they had to do. I say that because the Rams are going to get healthy. They're going to get whole. And it's like going to the park when you know your big brothers are behind you. Right now, they're kind of going alone and they're just playing. But all of a sudden, like, no, I'm going to bring my own squad with me.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring these dudes with me. And you just have a confidence, I think, that they'll have when they get out of this bye week.
I'm going to my very optimistic rose-colored here. Like I said at the beginning, I have not fallen
Kevin
down.
Dotson glasses?
Yes. Glasses. I'm doing it. I understand what I say. However, here back to, hey, you know what? We still have a heartbeat. You get the bye week. You get as healthy as you possibly come back. If you had to pick something on the list.
Yes.
Okay, so you get you get the Raiders get right.
And who knows what happens with Devontae Adams?
Who knows?
Quarterback.
Exactly. Today, so you have an opportunity there. Right. The game after that is on a short week, and you're home. That is, yes, it's Minnesota coming in, and we'll know what their record is by the time we get now. look like a really good team, but the road team on a short week, a really short week, a Thursday night week, that whole practice eliminated for the other guy, so you got a chance right there. Now all of a sudden you got 2 games right there. You're going to a decent amount of success over the years. There is a back. This was a terrible start, but we got back into it. Last year, 3-6 through the first 9 games. Obviously, a different team, different opponent. With a couple of wins, all of a sudden, you're right back in the mix. Like, West is going to run away and hide in this division. So you just, find 5, see what happens after that.
I like that one. I was doing the same thing, finding a way back to 500. Finding a way. I don't know how you're going to get there, but you got to find a way. Even if they go 3-1 their next 4, they still don't get to 500.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the hard part. They can go 3-1 in their next 4 games and not get to 500. They have to.
If you go your next, you're within spitting distance of 500. You have a chance to do it. And look, the Raider game goes the wrong way, then all of a sudden, and you're wildly thinking about, do you move guys? Thinking about draft picks, all sorts of things. Like as grim as 1-4 is, 1-5 offers up an entirely new set of questions.
Yeah, 1-5, you're getting Mel Kiper's almanac, his draft board.
Yeah,
you're already turning to April and the Rams throwing a draft party. That's how difficult I think it is to have that start to a season.
So a little bit ago, Blake Corum got his real action today. 5 carries, 25 yards. Tyron scored another touchdown. 8th week that he's had a rushing touchdown. 22 carries, 102 yards, 4.6 yards per carry. So very successful on the ground again. You think nothing to do with really minus the fumble to open up the second half, but are we going to see both backs more considering how good Corum was today?
Well, I think that he showed you that he's ready for varsity play. He's been showing what he's capable of when he puts the ball in his hands. It was some garbage time in Arizona. It was a couple other carries here and there, but not meaningful carries. Today he got his first action in meaningful in real time, and he delivered. I think that was a positive for Sean McVay. That's a positive for the football team, that they can go in and say, we've got 2 guys that can now tote the rock, that can make some carries. Give us what we need. Give us a 1-2 punch. He got some tough yards today, and that's what I got excited about.
Yeah, there things that we saw today that are maybe might be coming up next, but the fact that this was a little bit better.
Correct.
They're going to have to score. They're going to have to find a way to score touchdowns. I don't know if those touchdowns to get Kupp or both Kupp back as good as been. There are limitations to what you're working with outside. Jordan Whittington left with his arm in a sling today, so we'll see what that looks like. The good news is you have 2 weeks to go, but they're going to have to touchdown. Those touchdowns aren't going to be, easily accessed to get Cooper Kupp.
To learn how to convert plays into touchdowns, convert drives and series into meaningful points in the game that you can live off of. It's hard right now because you don't necessarily have an identity. Like right now, I can say that the Rams are running the ball much more effective than they have in, I would say, years past or in a long time. That seems to be an identity of this team. But moving forward, how can you now incorporate guys who have been away? They're not just – every team knows the Rams want to run the ball, and yet it's not translating into touchdowns. They're not getting the big plays that results in scores. Yes, Tutu Atwell had a big catch or 2. Yes, there were a couple of other plays that got you some chunk yards, but you're not getting the big plays that results in touchdowns, and so that's why you always seem to stay behind.
For the post-game show, for the second consecutive for the Packers to the Rams get week 6 off. They got to get right. They got to lick some wounds and get back and get ready to go for the Raiders in week 7. Rams pregame show. That's starting at 11 o'clock right out in front of SoFi Stadium. That is in week 7. For Kirk Morrison, I'm Travis Rogers, and this has been